Imagine this exact moment. You are sitting in front of your computer screen, watching a movie or listening to a podcast in English with the subtitles turned on. Everything feels beautifully clear. You recognize almost every single word. You understand the plot. You know the grammar rules. And you feel incredibly confident about your progress. But then you decide to challenge yourself. You reach out your hand and turn the subtitles off. Instantly, the world changes. The clear, distinct English words you just saw suddenly morph into a fast, muddy wall of sound. It feels like the speakers are running at double speed, chewing their words and smashing full sentences into one long, confusing sound. Your mind desperately tries to keep up, but you fall behind in less than 3 seconds. You miss one phrase, your focus slips, and your brain completely checks out. You feel deep frustration, exhaustion, and an uncomfortable sense of self-doubt. You ask yourself the same painful question over and over again. Why can I read English perfectly? But the moment a native speaker opens their mouth, I understand absolutely nothing. Is your hearing bad? Is your memory failing you? No, it is not. You do not have a problem with your ears or your basic intelligence. The real reason you struggle to understand native speakers has nothing to do with your vocabulary size. The real reason is a deep structural mismatch in how your brain processes sound signals under real-time pressure. Today, we are going to travel straight into your auditory cortex to look at the remarkable neuroscience of listening. Uncover why your textbook training has trapped your ears, and revealed the exact biological system to decode native speech effortlessly. Welcome back to English Joyride. Here, we don't just teach you standard language lessons. We take you on a deep journey into the beautiful science of how your brain learns and processes English, so you can stop struggling and start achieving true fluency. Every single week, we break down complex neurological and psychological research from world-class speech laboratories, and we turn it into simple, elegant English that anyone can understand and use immediately. Today's journey is going to completely flip the way you look at your listening habits. We are going to explore the hidden mechanics of your acoustic processing networks. Examine the dangerous translation bottleneck that causes your mind to crash. And look at how native speakers actually manipulate sounds in the real world. Before we unlock these incredible hidden secrets of your mind together, make sure to click subscribe now. Why now? Because next week, we are releasing an exclusive, step-by-step biological breakdown on how your brain coordinates your tongue and vocal cords to eliminate hesitation, allowing you to speak English with spontaneous rhythm and total physical comfort. You absolutely do not want to miss out on that specific lesson. To understand why real-world English sounds so impossibly fast, we must look at how your brain cells map incoming audio signals. When you look at a printed English sentence in a textbook, your eyes see a collection of beautifully isolated words. There is a distinct white space before and after every single word on the page. Your brain loves these spaces because they act as clear boundaries. Your visual system can take its time. Look at the single word. Pull its meaning from your long-term memory. and then move comfortably to the next word. This is a very clean, structured process. Because of this training, your brain naturally expects spoken English to follow the exact same format. Your mind expects a native speaker to say a word. Pause for a tiny millisecond and then say the next word, but the moment a native speaker opens their mouth, your expectations are completely shattered. In natural, spontaneous speech, there are absolutely no spaces between words. Spoken language is not a series of isolated blocks. It is a continuous, unbroken river of acoustic energy. When a native speaker says a sentence like, "What do you want to do with it?" they do not pronounce 8 separate words. Instead, their breath and vocal cords create one singular, massive sound wave that sounds more like, "What you wanna do with it?" This biological phenomenon is what linguists call connected speech. When native speakers talk, their mouths are constantly looking for the path of least resistance to save daily physical energy. To make the speech flow faster, their tongue and lips perform 3 major acoustic modifications without even thinking. First, they use linking, which means they push the ending sound of one word straight into the beginning sound of the next word, turning 2 separate items into a single unit. Second, they use reduction, where they intentionally weaken vowels, changing strong sounds like to into a tiny, relaxed sound like te. Third, they use elation, which is the complete deletion of sounds, quietly dropping letters like D or T when they appear between other consonants. This acoustic blending creates an absolute nightmare for an untrained adult brain. When this raw stream of connected sound hits your eardrum, your primary auditory cortex receives a chaotic wave of electricity. Your internal speech processing engine instantly searches for the familiar word, boundaries. It learned from textbooks, but it cannot find them anywhere. There are no white spaces in the audio stream. Because the boundaries are missing, your brain fails to perform a crucial task called speech segmentation. It cannot tell where one word ends and the next word begins. To your mind, the native speaker is not talking fast. Your brain is simply receiving a massive, undivided block of sound that it doesn't know how to chop up into meaningful pieces. You know all the individual words on the page, but because they have changed their physical shape in the air, your brain treats them like a completely alien language. While your auditory cortex is struggling to segment the chaotic sound stream, a second massive crisis occurs deeper inside your cognitive architecture. This crisis lives within your working memory. Working memory is the small, temporary mental workspace your brain uses to hold and process information in real time. Think of your working memory as a fast-moving conveyor belt inside a manufacturing factory. When a native speaker talks to you, they are placing boxes of sound on your conveyor belt at a continuous speed of roughly 150 words per minute. Your brain's urgent job is to take each box off the belt, decode the sound pattern, extract the true meaning, and clear the space before the next box arrives. This requires an immense amount of cognitive focus and speed. If your language training is based on traditional methods, your brain is forced to use a slow conscious translation program to clear the conveyor belt. The moment a box arrives with a blended sound like, "I should have told him," your processor cannot recognize it instantly. Your brain has to pause. It stops the conveyor belt to perform a deep conscious search through your explicit memory database. It asks, "What does this sound mean? Let me translate it into my native tongue to check." This conscious calculation takes your brain about half a second of intense mental labor. Finally, your system uncovers the answer and clears the box. But while your brain was paused, trying to decode that single blended phrase, the native speaker did not stop talking. They kept placing more boxes onto the belt at full speed. 3 more sentences have just piled up on your conveyor belt while you were stuck on the first phrase. This sudden accumulation of data creates a massive cognitive disaster called working memory overload. Your internal conveyor belt becomes completely jammed with an unmanageable pile of acoustic information. When your working memory capacity is exceeded, your brain enters a state of absolute security panic. It realizes that it cannot process the incoming data stream anymore, so it pulls an emergency safety switch to prevent itself from becoming completely exhausted. Your system crashes, your processor stops calculating, and your mind goes completely blank. You freeze up, and you lose track of the entire conversation. You didn't stop understanding because the topic was too complex. You stopped understanding because your slow translation program caused a massive backup on your short-term conveyor belt. To make matters worse, most adult learners are trapped in a psychological cage called the perfectionist listening trap. When you listen to your native language, your brain is incredibly relaxed. If someone uses a slang word you don't know, or if a loud car drives by and blocks a phrase, your mind doesn't panic. Your brain simply ignores the missing piece and uses the surrounding context to automatically guess the meaning without you even noticing. Your native listening system is designed to tolerate ambiguity. But when you switch over to English, your adult brain becomes highly defensive and insecure. You feel an intense, anxious need to catch and decode every single sound with absolute perfection. The moment a native speaker uses an unfamiliar word, or smashes a phrase into an unrecognized shape, your perfectionist trap snaps shut. Your focus freezes entirely on that one missing piece. You stand there mentally staring at that single unknown sound, trying to solve the puzzle, while you are trapped in your past thoughts, trying to remember what that specific word means. You completely disconnect from the present moment. You miss the next 10 words the speaker says. By the time you finally decide to give up and let go of that troublesome word, the conversation has moved miles away. Your extreme anxiety for total perfection is ironically the exact thing that ensures you stay completely lost. You are crashing your own system by refusing to let your ears skip a beat. Most students make a tragic mistake when they try to fix this listening problem. When they realize they cannot understand native speakers, they assume that the solution is to consume more data. They open a dictionary, buy heavy books, and force themselves to memorize thousands of rare, academic vocabulary words. Or they spend hours sitting at their desk, doing boring reading comprehension tests, but they are completely treating the wrong disease. They are putting more files into a hard drive when the real problem is that the audio player is completely broken. Learning more vocabulary words will not help you if your brain cannot recognize those exact words when they are blended together in the air. The bottleneck is not a lack of dictionary data. The bottleneck is a total absence of auditory maps. To understand what an auditory map is, let us look at how your brain stores language files. When you learn a word purely through your eyes by reading a textbook, your brain creates a visual memory file for that word. It records the letters, the spelling, and the visual structure. However, your brain does not automatically connect that visual file to your auditory network. They live in completely different neighborhoods inside your head. If you have never heard a word pronounced in fast connected speech, your auditory cortex has no acoustic map for it. When a native speaker uses that word in a natural sentence, your brain scans your auditory neighborhood, finds absolutely nothing, and rejects the sound as unrecognized garbage. You are visually rich, but auditorily bankrupt. Think about the word comfortable. In a traditional classroom, you might be taught to pronounce this word slowly as 4 separate syllables. Comfortably. Your brain creates an internal map for that 4-syllable sound pattern. But in the real world, a native speaker will almost never say it that way. They will reduce the word into 3 rapid syllables that sound like comfortable. When that 3-syllable sound wave hits your ear, your brain looks at your 4-syllable map, sees that they do not match, and assumes this is a completely new word you have never seen before. You stand there feeling confused. But the moment someone writes the word down on a piece of paper, you smile and say, "Oh, I know that word." This common experience is absolute proof of the gap. Your visual memory knew the word perfectly, but your auditory memory was completely empty. To bridge this painful gap permanently, you must stop treating listening as a passive activity where you just let sound hit your ears while your mind drifts away. Passive listening does absolutely nothing to update your brain's auditory maps. If you leave an English podcast playing in the background while you clean your room or surf the internet, your brain quickly treats it as meaningless background noise. Like the sound of a fan or rain falling outside. It uses its daily energy to focus on your tasks and aggressively filters out the language signals to force your neurons to build strong, concrete highways for connected speech. You must shift your routine to a method called active auditory mapping. Active auditory mapping means forcing your brain to directly compare the visual file of a text with the auditory file of real connected speech at the exact same time. When you make your brain perform this direct comparison, you are sending a massive electrical signal through your neural networks. You are telling your hippocampus, "Look at this printed word. And now, listen to how it actually sounds in reality." Connect these 2 neighborhoods together right now. This active process instantly updates your internal database, replacing your old artificial classroom sounds with real, authentic acoustic maps that can survive the speed of a live conversation. Let us look at a beautiful, practical framework to build these powerful auditory maps without getting overwhelmed. feeling stressed, or spending hours at a desk. We call it the Joyride Acoustic Decoding Method. This method requires no special software, fits easily into any busy lifestyle, and takes less than 10 focused minutes a day. It is designed to accomplish 3 major neurological goals: reveal hidden word boundaries, train your working memory to clear the conveyor belt automatically, and eliminate your hypercorrection listening anxiety. The framework is built on a simple 3-step routine that you can start practicing tomorrow morning using any short English audio track that includes an accurate transcript. Let us look at step 1, which is called the Boundary Discovery Scan. Pick a very short piece of authentic English audio, roughly 30 seconds long. A clip from a movie, a talk show, or an interesting documentary works perfectly. First, listen to the 30-second clip completely blind, with your eyes closed and no text in front of you. Notice where your ears get lost. Notice where the sounds blur into a giant, muddy wave. Next, open the transcript and listen to the clip a second time while following the text with your eyes. Look closely at places where you got confused. Identify the exact words that native speakers smashed together. If the text says, "What are you going to do?" but the audio sounds like "Wachagonado," take a mental note of that specific shape change. You are physically training your auditory cortex to spot the boundaries where words connect. Next is step 2, which is called the delayed shadowing echo. Listen to the same 30-second clip again, but this time, keep your text open and try to repeat the words out loud, lagging just 1 or 2 words behind the speaker's voice. Do not try to read the text with your artificial classroom pronunciation. Instead, force your mouth and tongue to mimic the exact music, the exact reductions, and the exact linking of the native speaker. If they drop a sound, you drop it too. If they weaken a vowel, you copy the weakness. By physically forcing your vocal muscles to produce connected speech, you are using your motor cortex to lock in the auditory map. You are building muscle memory for sounds, which instantly tells your working memory how to process those patterns automatically when you hear them later. Finally, we reach step 3, which is called the blind calibration. Close your transcript completely, put away the text, and listen to that same 30-second audio clip one final time with your eyes shut. Because you have spent the last few minutes mapping the boundaries and physically mimicking the shapes, something absolutely remarkable will happen inside your skull. The muddy, fast wall of sound will suddenly divide itself into clear, beautiful, distinct words. You will hear the reductions. You will notice the links. And your brain will effortlessly understand the full meaning in real time without translating a single syllable. You have successfully updated your auditory database for those specific sound patterns. You have cleared the conveyor belt before the traffic could pile up. This 3-step process moves your language learning from a slow, text-based academic science project into a dynamic, sound-based physical habit. You are no longer just stuffing more rare words into your conscious, explicit memory. Instead, you are sharpening the automatic decoding tools inside your deep auditory cortex. You are training your ears to handle real-world speech under intense time pressure, ensuring that your system stays perfectly calm, open, and efficient during any spontaneous international conversation. It is a small, targeted habit, but its neurological impact is incredibly fast and permanent. Let us take a quiet, relaxed moment to look back at our deep scientific journey today. We started with a very exhausting, frustrating question. Why can you read English beautifully, but struggle to understand native speakers the moment they talk to you in real life? First, we discovered the fascinating mechanics of connected speech. We learned how native speakers naturally link sounds, reduce vowels, and delete letters to save physical energy, transforming separate words into an unbroken river of acoustic waves. We realized that your brain struggles because it cannot find the clear word boundaries it learned from textbooks, making speech segmentation nearly impossible. Second, we examined the conveyor belt of working memory. We saw how using a slow, conscious translation program to decode blended sounds causes an immediate traffic jam inside your short-term mental workspace. When the data piles up under time pressure, your central processor overloads, triggers a security panic, and shuts down your awareness, causing your mind to go completely blank. Third, we exposed the perfectionist listening trap. We realized that an intense, anxious focus on catching every single sound perfectly actually freezes your mind in the past, causing you to drop out of the present conversation completely. We learned that fluency requires an ability to tolerate ambiguity and skip over minor missing pieces. Fourth, we broke down the gap between your visual memories and your auditory maps. We saw how learning words purely through reading creates a database that is completely unrecognized by your auditory cortex when sounds change their syllables in the real world. Finally, we introduced the Joyride acoustic decoding method, a highly effective 3-step daily habit involving the boundary discovery scan, delayed shadowing echo, and blind calibration to systematically connect your visual and auditory networks, update your internal database, and clear your mental conveyor belt automatically. Knowledge without a real, immediate step forward is just temporary data for your brain. Here is your concrete, realistic action plan for tomorrow morning to break free from the listening trap permanently. I want you to perform a small 5-minute auditory experiment. Find an English video or audio clip that is less than 1 minute long and has an accurate transcript. Spend just 2 minutes doing a boundary discovery scan. Listen once with your eyes closed to find the blurs. Then listen a second time with the text to expose the secret shortcuts the speaker used. Once you find the links, spend 2 minutes mimicking those exact sound shapes out loud. Don't worry about perfect grammar or looking serious. Just let your mouth copy the natural flow, the speed, and the melody of the native speaker. Finally, close your text and listen to the clip one last time with your eyes shut to calibrate your new auditory map. Commit to executing this simple task for exactly 7 consecutive days without breaking the chain. It will require less than 5 minutes of your daily schedule and cost you absolutely zero money. But by the end of the week, you will have updates dozens of sound files inside your auditory network, you will prove to your own processing center that native speech is not a chaotic enemy to fear. It is just a beautiful pattern that your mind knows exactly how to decode. As we bring our journey to a close today, please carry this vital, comforting truth close to your heart. Not being able to understand native speakers right away is not a permanent proof of weakness, and it never was. It is simply a temporary technical mismatch between the clean textbook language you were taught and the fast, flowing audio of the real world. Every single fluent speaker you admire today once stood exactly where you are standing right now, feeling completely overwhelmed by the muddy wall of sound. They didn't succeed because they possessed a magical set of ears. They succeeded because they kept listening, kept adapting, and allowed their brains to map the patterns over time. Language is not a rigid academic test built to expose your flaws and make you feel small. It is a warm, living bridge designed to connect human minds, share authentic stories, and explore this magnificent earth together. Be incredibly proud of your deep dedication today. Trust the natural, self-building intelligence of your neurological systems. And always remember to be completely kind to your mind. You are growing, transforming, and moving closer to total fluency with every single sound wave you absorb. If this deep scientific journey helped you understand your own auditory networks a little better today, please give this video a like and subscribe to our beautiful community. Your magnificent support allows us to continue creating these deep, science-based educational documentaries for passionate language learners all across this globe. Now, mastering how to decode native speech is a massive victory for your ears. But how do you take those newly mapped words and train your mouth to speak them automatically without that frustrating internal translation loop? I have designed a complete step-by-step masterclass on how to synchronize your thought centers with your vocal motor networks for spontaneous, effortless speech. Click on the video appearing on your screen right now, and let us continue this beautiful ride together. See you on the next ride.